Good morning, guys. In the last session, we discussed about our major project modules, right? From today, we are going to understand Angular integration with our project. How to integrate Spring Boot application with Angular. So I hope you already attended Angular classes and you practiced it, right? So let me give a quick overview on what is Angular and how to develop Angular application and how to integrate Angular application with our backend applications. All right. So first, what is Angular? Angular is a client-side framework developed by Google company. So we learned Spring Boot, right? Spring Boot is used to develop backend of the application. Spring Boot is a framework. It is extension for the Spring framework, which is used to develop backend of the applications. Similarly, to develop front end of the applications, we are going for Angular. Angular is a client-side framework developed by Google company. And this Angular framework is developed using TypeScript. TypeScript is a programming language. So it is used in the Angular applications development. Okay. Right. Angular is a client-side framework developed by Google company. Angular framework is developed using TypeScript. Angular is mainly used for single page applications development. And this Angular supports multiple devices like mobiles and desktops. And Angular supports multiple browsers also. And this Angular is open source framework. Angular is open source framework, right? And this Angular JS available earlier. Initially, Angular JS came into picture, but there are some performance issues with the Angular JS. That's why they have rewritten complete the Angular framework from the Angular version 2 onwards. So Angular JS available, Angular is available. Angular 1.x is called Angular JS, which is developed by using JavaScript. But from the Angular version 2 onwards, it is called just Angular framework. Angular 1.x developed by using JavaScript. Angular 2.x developed by using TypeScript. So Angular is a client-side framework developed by Google company, and it is developed using TypeScript language. Angular is mainly used for single-page applications development. That means without reloading the entire web page, content can be updated in the web pages. That is called single-page applications development. This Angular supports multiple devices. So you can use same application in the mobile and in the desktop also. Angular supports multiple browsers. So it's browser compatible. The application which is working in the Chrome browser, in the same way it will work in the Firefox and Edge browsers also. It supports multiple browsers. And this Angular is a free and open source framework. You don't need to purchase this Angular. You can download it for free of cost. This Angular JS and Angular both are not same. Angular JS is developed using JavaScript. Due to some performance issues, the Google team who developed this Angular, they completely rewritten Angular, that is Angular framework. Now, if you want to start working with Angular, first you need to understand some building blocks in the Angular. Building blocks of the Angular. What are the building blocks available in the Angular? Components available, metadata, template, data binding, module, service, dependency injection, directives, and pipes. So anyone who wants to learn Angular or who wants to work with the Angular, they should know these building blocks with the Angular. These are the main 4 areas in the Angular. First one is component. Second one is metadata. Third one is a template. Fourth one is a data binding. Fifth one is a module. Sixth one is a service. Seventh one is a dependency injection. Eighth one is a directives. Ninth one is pipes. These are called building blocks of the Angular. Let's understand these Angular building blocks. So here in the Angular building blocks, the most important thing is components and templates. Okay, here component will be available. Component is something like a controller in our Spring MVC. Component is like a controller in our Spring MVC, which represents a small portion in the web page. And for every component, we are going to have a template. Template is nothing but a view file. Component is like a class which contains a template. Now, here, component to template, we are going to send the data. Component will send the data to the template. Template will send the data to the component. So the process of exchanging the data from the component to template and from template to component is called as data binding. Is called as data binding. So component is representing a small portion in the web page. Component will send the data to the template. Template will send the data to the component. The process of sending the data to the component and template to component is called as data binding. Is called as data binding. And here on the template, I want to perform some operations. For example, I want to display some content. Template is nothing but a HTML page, which is a view. So when I'm displaying the data on the template, I want to do some formatting on the data. I want to execute the presentation logic based on some conditions. I want to execute some loops. I want to execute if conditions. I want to execute the loops. For that, we are going to use directives on the template. Directives are used to manipulate DOM elements in the web page. So when to display the text field, when I select one text field, when I select one radio button, I want to display another radio button. So conditional based, I want to execute the presentation logic based on some conditions. For that, we are going to use directives concept. Directives are used to manipulate DOM elements. And on the template, we can use pipes also. Pipes are used for transforming the data. For example, I have the data in the lowercase format, but at the time of representing the data on the template, I want to convert that into uppercase format. I have the data in the lowercase format. I want to convert the data into uppercase format. I have the currency in the rupees format. I want to convert into dollars format. Okay. So if you want to format your data, then you can represent that formattings by using pipes. So template is basically a HTML file. We can also call it as a view component. Template is a HTML file. We can call it as a view component. Right. So presentation logic will be available in the template. So on the template, if you want to execute the presentation logic based on the conditions, for that we are going to use directives concept. And when you want to do some transformations on the data, then we are going for pipes concept. And the component is available. Component is used to send the data to the template and take the data from the template. Okay. So the process of sending the data from component to template, template to component is called as data binding. And here for the components, business logic will be available on the services. So we are going to use a concept called services concept. Services will be injected into component. In the Spring, how we are developing controllers and services, in the same way, in the Angular, components and services will be available. Component will represent small portion of the web page. Services will represent business logic. So service class contains the business logic. That service class will be injected into component. The process of injecting service class into component class is called as dependency injection. The process of injecting component into service class is called as dependency injection. All right. So now, if you see components, okay, what is a component? Component will represent a small portion in the web page. Angular application is a collection of components. In components, we'll write the logic to send the data to template and capture the data from the template. Components are TypeScript classes. So when you go for Angular application, collection of components will be available. Login component, registration component, user component, forget password component, dashboard component, Okay. So for every page, one component will be created, and a component represents a portion in the web page. Angular application is nothing but collection of components only. And for every component, a template will be available. So metadata will be representing data about the data. It provides information about components and templates mapping. Which component having which template? Which template belongs to which component belongs to which template. That information will be available as a metadata. Metadata, nothing but data about the data. It provides information about components and templates mapping in the Angular. The next one, what is a template? Template is a view where we will write our presentation logic. Now, as I told you, component will contain the logic to send the data to the template. Template is a HTML file which is used to represent the data. Template is a view where we will write our presentation logic. In Angular application, template is a HTML file. Every component contains its own template. So which component belongs to which template, that we will represent by using metadata. And the next one, data binding is available. What is the purpose of data binding? Data binding is the process of binding data between component property and view element. Component property and view element in the template file. So that means I want to send the data from component to template. I want to send some messages to view file. I want to take view file data to the component. For that, we are going to use data binding. Data binding is the process of representing relationship between component variables and the template elements. Input fields data I want to map, form data I want to map. For that, we are going for data binding. And in the Angular, we are having a concept called modules concept. So set of components, services, directives, pipes are belongs to particular module. So we can use modules concept, app module, user module, DC module, ED module. Set of components, it is something like a grouping. It is something like a grouping. So modules concept will be available in the Angular, which is used to group components, templates, and directives. Module is a collection of components, directives, and pipes concept. Next one, service. What is the meaning of service? Service means it will contain reusable business logic. Now, basically, whatever the business logic you want to write in the front-end application, that business logic we are going to write in the service class in the Angular. Services. You just imagine our Spring Boot applications. Controllers will be available, services will be available. Here, component is equal to controller, and the service contains our business logic. So basically, if you want to access backend REST APIs, the backend REST API logic, the accessing the backend REST API logic will be available in the service layer. So here, our Spring Boot REST API is available. This is our backend application. Spring Boot REST API available. This is our backend application. So how to communicate from our front-end application to backend application? This is our front-end application. This is our backend application. So to establish communication between the front-end application and the backend application, we are going to use service classes only in the Angular. In the Angular, service class will be available, which contains a business logic. From the service class, we are going to access our backend REST APIs. Service class contains the logic to access the backend REST API. Service class will be injected into component class, that is called dependency injection. Service means it contains reusable business logic. Service classes we will inject into components using dependency injection. Right? So we know already dependency injection. No need to explain that again. Dependency injection is the process of injecting dependent object into target object. In Angular applications, services will be injected into components using dependency injection. In the Spring already we know what is dependency injection. So similarly, in the Angular also, dependency injection is available to inject one object into another object. Here, service classes contains the business logic to access the backend REST APIs. That service classes will be injected into component. Component will access the data from the service. Component will give the data to template. Template will display the data on the view, on the HTML, on the browser, on the web page. So whenever we are displaying the data on the template, if you want to execute some conditions, then we will use directives. If you want to do some data transformation, then we will go for pipes concept. We'll go for pipes concept. Dependency injection is the process of injecting dependent object into target object. In Angular applications, services will be injected into components using dependency injection. Okay. Then what is the purpose of directives? Directives are used to manipulate DOM elements in the template. So now I want to manipulate a radio button. When I select one radio button, I want to display another radio button. When I select one drop down, I want to fetch the another drop down data. Such kind of manipulation on the DOM elements can be done by using directives. Then what are the pipes? Pipes are used to transform the data before displaying. Lowercase to uppercase, rupees to dollars, from one date format to another date format. If you want to do such kind of data transformation on the templates, then we can use pipes concept. So these are main building blocks in the Angular. So if you want to develop front end by using Angular, then you should have idea on these concepts: components, metadata, template, data binding, module, service, dependency injection, directives, and pipes. Look at this. What is Angular and what are the main building blocks of the Angular? Angular is a client-side framework. It is developed by Google company. Angular is a client-side framework developed by Google company, and it is developed by using TypeScript language. What is the main purpose of the Angular? Angular is mainly used for SPA, nothing but single page applications development. One web page will be available, just content will be updated on the web page without reloading the entire web page. This supports multiple devices, supports multiple browsers. It is a free and open source framework. Angular JS and Angular both are not same. Angular JS developed by using JavaScript. Due to some performance issues, Angular JS completely rewritten by using TypeScript. Then Angular came into picture. Currently, people are not using Angular JS. People are using only Angular. From Angular version 2, it is called as Angular framework. Angular 1 is called as Angular JS. Angular 2 onwards, till today, they are called as Angular framework versions, not the Angular JS versions. Now, building blocks, components, metadata, template, data binding, module, service, dependency injection, directives, pipes. Angular application is a collection of components. In components, we will write the logic to send the data to template and capture the data from the template. Components are basically TypeScript classes, right? Metadata. Metadata, nothing but data about the data. It provides information about the components and the templates mapping. Which component belongs to which template will be represented by metadata. Template is a view where we will write our presentation logic. Template is a view. It is basically HTML file where we will write our presentation logic. In Angular application, template is a HTML file. Every component contains its own template. Data binding, it is the process of sending data between component property and view element in the template. Data binding is used to send the data from component to template, template to component. What is a module? Module is a collection of components, directives, and pipes. And here we have service. Service means it contains reusable business logic. Service classes we will inject into component classes using dependency injection. What is dependency injection? Dependency injection is the process of injecting dependent object into target object. In the Angular, business logic will be there in the services. Services should be injected into component. Good. Directives. Directives are used to manipulate the DOM elements in the template, like loops, conditions, we can implement by using directives. What are pipes? Pipes are used to transform the data before displaying. Uppercase to lowercase, rupees to dollars, date formats can be done by using pipes concept. Are you guys clear? What is Angular? Why we need to go for Angular? Next one, Angular setup. Angular setup. If you want to develop any application by using Angular, you need to install Angular CLI in our system. So in order to install the Angular CLI, first you need to install Node.js. If you want to set up Angular in your system, first you need to set up Node.js, then you need to install TypeScript, then you need to install Angular CLI, then you need to install VS Code IDE. For the backend development, we are using STS or IntelliJ. For the front-end development, we are going to use, for the backend development, we are going to use Spring Toolsuit or IntelliJ IDE, whereas for the front-end development, we are going to use VS Code IDE. Right? First, we need to install Node.js, then we need to install TypeScript, then we need to install Angular CLI, then we need to install VS Code IDE. VS Code IDE is also open source. It is given by Microsoft. Okay. For the Node.js, you can visit this website. You can go to this website and you can download Node.js LTS version. Okay. You can download the Node.js for Windows and you can install that. Now, if you check it in the CMD, Node-V, which version of the Node.js I have already installed. Node version 18 is already installed in my system. Right. I'm hoping that you guys also done this because you attended Angular classes. Node.js installation should be done in our system, right? So to install the Node.js, you can go to this website, you can download the Node LTS version and you can long-term support LTS means. So you can install, once the Node is installed, you can verify the Node version by using Node-V. Node version 18 is available. Node is installed in our system. Once the Node is installed, then we need to install TypeScript because Angular framework itself developed by using TypeScript, and we are going to write the TypeScript classes in the Angular application. So after installing the Node, you need to install TypeScript also in our system. To install the TypeScript, we are going to use the npm, that is Node Package Manager. By using this command, you can install TypeScript in your system. To check the TypeScript version, tsc-v. So you can see TypeScript version 4.9.3 is already available in my machine. So Node version 18, TypeScript version 4 is already installed in my system. So you can download the Node from this URL and you can install. Then you can install TypeScript by using Node Package Manager. Then you can verify which version of the TypeScript is available in our system by using TSC. TSC nothing but TypeScript compiler. How we have Java compiler, similarly, TypeScript compiler is available. Once that TypeScript is installed, then we need to install Angular CLI software in our system. To install Angular CLI, npm install command we can use. npm install command we can use to install Angular CLI, Angular command line. So you can execute this command to install the Angular. In our system, it is already installed. You can check the version of the Angular by using ngv. ngv will display Angular version. ng nothing but Angular. Okay. Angular CLI version 15 is available. Node 18 is available. TypeScript 4 is available. So Node version 18, Angular version 15, TypeScript version 4 is installed in our system. Right? So if you don't have Node, you can install that, then install the TypeScript, then install the Angular CLI. So once you're done with this installation process, you can verify which version of the Angular available in our machine. Angular CLI 15 is available in our machine. Once it is done, you can download and install VS Code IDE. As I told you, for the front-end development, we are going for VS Code IDE. You can go to this website, you can download VS Code IDE for Windows and for Mac operating systems. So VS Code IDE, we are going to download and we are going to install. So I have that VS Code IDE also in my system. That is Visual Studio Code IDE. This IDE is used for front-end development. When you want to develop Angular applications or React applications, then we are going to use this VS Code IDE. So with this, we are done with our Angular setup. Let's start building Angular applications. Are you guys clear with environment setup for Angular applications? Are you guys clear with environment setup for Angular applications? What is Angular? Angular building blocks, and Angular setup. Perfect. These are the 4 steps you need to complete to set up Angular environment in our system. Yeah, fine. Now guys, let me go with workspace folder. Now here I'm creating workspace as ng workspace. In the 23 JRTP, I create a workspace folder called ng workspace. So in this folder, I want to create my Angular applications. Now, I want to choose this as a workspace folder for my VS Code IDE. So what we can do is, you can open CMD from here, from the location. You can open CMD from here. Now, 23 JRTP, ng workspace. Here, just type code space dot. If you type code space dot, it will open VS Code IDE from this location. It is going to open VS Code IDE from this location. Let's verify that. Now you can see VS Code IDE is opened here and it is pointing to this workspace direct. That is our ng workspace direct. VS Code IDE is open and it is pointing to ng workspace direct. All clear? Are you guys clear? How I opened VS Code IDE to point my workspace? What is the command I used? Code space dot. Right? Create workspace folder in your file system. Open command prompt from a workspace folder, then type code space dot. Then it will open VS Code IDE from that folder. Open the terminal in the VS Code IDE to execute our commands. Now from now onwards, we no need to go to command prompt to execute any command. In the VS Code IDE itself, we can execute the commands. Right? ng workspace folder is opened here. Correct. Now here, click on these 3 dots, terminal. I want to open a terminal. My terminal is opened here. By default, we are getting a PowerShell, guys. We need to switch from PowerShells to command prompt. Now my command prompt is open here. It is opening in the split mode. Now I want to get the command prompt to bottom of this IDE. So select this CMD and point here. I want to point the CMD here. Perfect. Now my CMD is pointing here. My CMD, my terminal is pointing to 23 JRTP ng workspace directory. Now I want to create one sample Angular application. I want to create one Angular application. How to create one Angular application? By using ng new app name. So what is the command to create the Angular application? To create Angular application, we can execute the below command ng new app name. To create any Angular application, we are going to use a command called ng new app name. Right. So it is going to take some time to create the application ng new app1. I'm trying to create my first Angular application. ng new app1. You check this. It is asking, would you like to add Angular routing? No. No. Do you want to use CSS? Yes. Yeah. Now you see, it is creating Angular application. It will take some time. It will take some time to create this Angular application. We have to wait for that. Still, the project creation is in progress. Yes, still it is creating the project. Yeah, finally, Angular application got created. You can see that application name is app1. In this application, so many files and folders got created. There is a file called package.json. So this package.json is equal to our pom.xml. So which contains all project dependencies. So in the Java applications, pom.xml file will be available where we configure the dependencies, right? Similarly, in the front-end application, dependencies will be configured by using package.json. That's fine. So project is created, SRC is available, source, app component. So whenever you create the Angular application, by default, app component will be created. App template, app component CSS, app component HTML, app component .ts, app module. So some files got created by default. Some files got created by default. Now, so I want to run this Angular application. So to run this Angular application, we need a terminal. I closed it by mistake. Let me open the terminal. Yeah. So this is my terminal, guys. Yeah, this is my terminal. I'm pointing to ng workspace. So let me go inside the project directory, cd space app1. I'm inside the directory. Once you are inside the directory, you can execute a command called ng-serve command. ng-serve command is used to run our Angular applications. ng-serve command is used to run our Angular applications. It will build the Angular project and it will run this Angular project. Now it is doing application bundles. It will take some time to do the build and run. So we have to wait till our Angular application got started. These Angular applications will run in the live server and the live server port number will be 4200. Live server port number will be 4200. Now you can see Angular application got started. Angular live development server is listening on the localhost 4200. Open your browser and hit this URL, localhost:4200. That is the URL where our Angular application can be accessed. Go here, localhost:4200. Localhost:4200. With this, you can check it. Our Angular application is running. With this, you can check that Angular application is running. App1 is running. Okay, this is some default page that we are getting when our Angular application is executing as expected. This is the default page which is loaded when our Angular application is executed. So by default, the Angular application execution will start from index.html. So this is the index.html file. This index.html file is the web page and all the other web pages will be updated on this index.html file based on the selector. In the index.html file, app root is available. This is the selector of our app component. App component.html file available. Let me remove this default content. Let me add h1. Welcome to Ashok IT. Something like this. I have updated my app.component.html file. Go to browser. Now you see it changed. So by default, when you run the Angular application, index.html file will be loaded. That index.html file is invoking app component. App component is the parent component in the Angular applications. So for every component, one template will be available and one template CSS file will be available. So in the template, I'm writing, welcome to Ashok IT, that is printing. I want to print this message in the red color. So to do that, app component.css file is available. For a H2 tag, I want to write some CSS. Okay. So for H2, I want to write the CSS. Color, I want to give in the red form. For a H2, I'm writing the color, right? Dot H2, I want to represent the CSS for this. Okay. It is not reflecting. So sorry, H1 tag, na? H1 tag I have given. For H1 tag, I want to give this CSS. Right now, it change it to red color. So if you see, CSS is available in one file, presentation logic is available in one file, and the TS file is available, which is a TypeScript file. So this is called app component, which is available. This is a default component, and it is called as a main component. This is a default component, and it is called as a main component in the Angular. So whenever we run the Angular application, it will execute welcome file. The welcome file in the Angular application is index.html. So the index.html file is available. In the index.html, can you see the line number 11? In the index.html, can you see the line number 11? What is line number 11 in the index.html, guys? What is the meaning of that line number 11 in the index.html? Come on. You already learned all these concepts in the Angular classes. Already Angular classes completed for you people. What is the purpose of this line number 11 in the index.html? What is the purpose of line number 11 in the index.html? Invoking the app component selector. We are maintaining the selector of the app component. We are maintaining the selector of the app component. So whenever the app component selector is accessed, app component template file will be loaded. In the template file, I have given you a message called welcome to Ashok IT with the H1 tag. For the H1 tag, I want to apply the color as red. So for the styles, we have the CSS file. For the presentation, we have HTML file. For the logic, we have the component file. Component class. So in the component class, you can see the metadata. This component selector is what? This component template is what? This component CSS file is what? So this is the selector for the component. This is the template of the component. This is the CSS of the component. This is called metadata. So in the Angular, multiple components will be available. Every component will have its own selector, its own template, its own CSS. So with this, we are able to access app component. Now, along with the app component, I want to create another component. For example, I want to create one greet component. I want to create one greet component, right? So I want to create one welcome component. So I can say that I am from app component. I am from app component. That means this message is coming from app component. So app component is the default component in our application. App component is the default component in our application. Now I want to create another component. So to create another component, ng generate component welcome. I want to create a component with a name called welcome. So this is a child component for the parent component. Unknown argument welcome. Ng generate component welcome. I want to generate one welcome component in the Angular application. Yes, welcome component is created. Now you see inside the app welcome component available. Welcome component.html. Let me write a message. H2 welcome to Ashok IT. Welcome to Ashok IT. For this H2, I want to give green color. H2 tag color, I want to give as green, something like this. Green color. By default, welcome component cannot be accessed. So we need to go for welcome component selector. Now go to app component HTML. Let us access the selector of the welcome component. So index.html file will be executed first as a welcome page. Index.html is accessing app component. App component is accessing welcome component. Okay. Parent component available and child components are available. Parent component and child components are available. Let us run our application. ng serve. ng serve command, which is used to run our Angular application. It will run on the development live server 4200 port number. We can access that. Yep, running. Go here, refresh. Now you see here, I'm from app component. App component is executed. And welcome to Ashok IT. This is from welcome component. So there are two components available in our application, app component and welcome component. App component is the root component, or I can say parent component. It will be available by default for every Angular application. This app component will be accessed from index.html by using selector. Inside the app component, we are accessing welcome component, app welcome. Welcome component is invoked. Similarly, we can create greet component also. We can create the greet component also. ng generate component greet. So like this, you can create multiple components in our application. Components in our application. Greet component is created. Greet component.html. Let me keep h3 greetings. Greetings. I want color. I want color as blue for a h3 content. Now in the h3, I'm giving the color as blue, something like this. Right? So we have app component. Along with that, we created two other components. Run the application. ng serve. I'm running this application. Three components available. One is called as parent component. Remaining are called as child components. Now go here, refresh. Okay. Why greet component is not executed, guys? App component template is rendered and welcome component is rendered. Why greet component is not rendered? The reason is greet component selector we have not invoked. Okay. We have to invoke that greet component in the app component. App is the parent component, or we can say main component. All the remaining components will act as childs for the app component. So index.html, that is a welcome file in the Angular that will access app component. App component should invoke the child components available in the application. I have changed that code. Now you can see greetings. That means greet component is working. Now you can see greet component is working. Greet component.html, remove this arrow. In the welcome component, extra braces available. Refresh. Now I'm from app component, welcome component, and a greet component. So total we are able to access three components here. You understand what is component, how to invoke the component? Component is a small portion in the web page. Component is a small portion in the web page. Components are used to handle your web page construction, your web page constructions. To invoke the components, selectors are going to play the important role. Now look at this app component. Inside the app component, we are invoking welcome component and greet component. Guys, are you clear with the component creation and component invocation? Are you clear with the component creation and component invocation? Component creation and component invocation, we are able to understand. Right? Here in the app component, if you observe, in the template, we have hard-coded a message, I'm from app component. You can send the message from the component as we discussed. Component can send the message to the template by using data binding. So data binding is the process of sending the data from component to template and template to component. Let me declare one variable in the app component. So let me keep message string is equal to I am from app component. Just I'm declaring a message in the component class because currently the message is hard coded in the template file. I don't want to hard code the message. I want to get the message from the component. Message variable is there. How to access this variable? By using interpolation. So by using this braces, we can access the message. I am trying to remove hard-coded message from the component template file. I have declared a variable in the component class. That variable I am accessing in the template by using double curly braces. This is called interpolation. This is called interpolation. Same thing can be done in the other components also. If you see greet component, template file is available, greetings. We have hard-coded that, right? Go to greet component TS file. Here also we can declare message colon string is equal to greetings from Ashok IT. Some message by using a variable. I want to access this message in the template. Take this variable, go to that template. Instead of hard coding the message, you can use interpolation. Directly you can access that. Similarly, in the welcome component.ts, here also you can declare a variable, message colon string, I'm from welcome component. That means this message is coming from welcome component. Take this message, welcome component.html. Instead of hard coding the message, you can access component variable using interpolation. Component variable using interpolation. Now I have removed hard coding of the messages in the templates. Now refresh. Yes, the data is reflecting. I'm from app component. So this message, this text is available in the component class as a variable. This message text available in the component class as a variable. This message text also available in the component class as a variable. This message text also available as a variable in the component. How we are sending the data from the component to template? How we are sending the data from component to template? To send the data from component to template, we are using data binding technique. Now, here, welcome component is available, greet component available. Greet component having a variable greeting from Ashok IT. Uppercase, lowercase mix available. But in the greet component here, for the message, I can give pipe. I can give pipe as uppercase. I can give the pipe as uppercase. When I give the pipe as uppercase, what happened? The complete message is converted to uppercase form. What is that concept? Pipes concept. What is the meaning of pipes concept? Pipes are used to transform the data. Now, if you go for app component, in the app component in HTML, the message I will convert into lowercase. I want to print everything in the lowercase format. Now, app component message is formatted to lowercase. Greet component message is formatted to uppercase. App component message is formatted to lowercase. Greet component message formatted to uppercase. Lowercase and uppercase. These are called pipes. These are called as pipes. Look at the diagram. Components available. Templates available. Component is a TypeScript class which contains the logic to send the data to template and to capture the data from the template. What is a template here? Template is a HTML file which contains our presentation logic. Right. When we are writing the presentation logic in the template, if you want some styles, for that, for every template, one CSS file is also available. So template specific CSS files will be available to write the style, cascading styles for that. And if you want to transform the data in the template, then we will go for pipes concept. If you want to manipulate DOM elements in the template, then we can go for directives concept. Pipes concept, directives concept, and template. Template is used to display the data. Directives are used to manipulate the DOM elements. Pipes are used to transform the data. What is data binding? Data binding is used to send the data from component to template and template to component. Next one, services. What is the purpose of service? Service is used to write the business logic. Inside the service, we can write the logic to access Spring Boot REST API. Inside the service, you can write the logic to access Spring Boot REST API. So in order to make the integration between our front-end and back-end applications, we are going to use one module that is called HTTP client. HTTP client will be acting as a mediator when you want to integrate front-end application with the back-end applications. So when you want to integrate your front-end application with the back-end application, in the back-end we have the REST API, front-end we have the Angular. Angular application should send the data to the back-end, back-end application should send the data to the front-end. So there should be some integration between our front-end and back-end. To establish the integration between the front-end and back-end, we are going to use HTTP client concept. HTTP client is one module, right? So that we are going to use for integrations. Angular application should send the request to the backend. Backend application should send the response to the frontend. That can be done by using HTTP client module in the Angular. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand how to create Angular application, how to execute, how to create the component, how to invoke the component, how to send the data from component to template? All right. So we are able to create the project. We are able to run the project. We are able to create the components. We are able to invoke the components. We are able to send the data dynamically from the component class to template file also by using interpolation concept. So this is just a revision because you already completed this Angular classes. With this knowledge, tomorrow we need to develop one application to integrate front end and back end. Okay. So for example, let's take in our major project, admin module is available. In that module, we have operations to create the user account and display the users, edit the user, update the user, activate or deactivate the user functionality available. So tomorrow we will develop the UI part for that. Okay. So we'll develop UI part for one or two APIs from the backend. So we have reports API, we have admin API, right? AR API is available. So we are going to develop a UI project for our IES so that we can integrate our front-end application with the backend application. We are going to integrate our front-end application with the backend application in the tomorrow session. So whatever the Angular classes you attended, you learned, just revise that and create one project and do the practice, components creation, services creation, data bindings, forms, form validations and all. So tomorrow we will integrate for one API, front-end and back-end. Basically how to perform CRUD operations by using front-end and back-end. Admin API contains CRUD operations to create the plans, view the plans, update the plan, delete the plan, create the user, update the user, delete the user, retrieve the users. For that, we are going to build one UI application. So in order to build that UI application with the backend integration, first our backend API should be ready. Our admin API is ready. We will run the admin API. We will run our admin API, and that admin API will access from our backend application. So this admin API we will run with the help of Docker, and that will be available in the AWS cloud. So we'll deploy our admin API in the AWS cloud. We'll deploy our admin API in the AWS cloud by using Docker. We know how to write the Docker file for the Spring Boot application. We are going to Dockerize that application so that we can access through public URL, and we will build Angular application with the component template and services by using HTTP client. Then we will start developing the UI logic. Then that UI logic can access our backend applications. So today I want you to practice this Angular project creation, component creation, invoking one component from the another component, service creation, how to inject service object into component object. So if you're ready with that, tomorrow we'll work on the project. I will Dockerize this admin API and I will deploy in the AWS cloud. We will access that admin API from the AWS and we will access that from our Angular front-end application. Are you clear with this? So today we discussed what is Angular, what are the main building blocks in the Angular architecture, environment setup of the Angular, creating first project using Angular, creating components in the Angular, invoking the components in the Angular, and all that stuff. So tomorrow we'll work on project development by using Angular to perform CRUD operations. Backend will be Spring Boot, front end will be Angular. Good. Perfect. Anybody having any questions on this? Anybody having any questions on this? My Angular notes, I'm going to upload this Angular notes into the portal, guys. I have prepared the complete notes for the Angular. So I will be uploading this Angular notes into the portal. Okay. HTTP client examples also I have given in the notes. How to access our backend API by using front end. Step-by-step document is also available. Simple, I have given the book object and how to perform operations, adding the book and retrieving the book operations I have given. I will upload these notes into our portal so that you can access my Angular notes as well. REST API integration with the Angular UI. How to integrate our backend REST API with the Angular UI. It is there in the material.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, the AWS notes, can you please upload on the portal?
Sure, sir. You asked me several times. I forgot. Now I will do that, sir. Within 15 minutes, I will upload it.
Okay, sir. And sir, if
notes, Angular notes also I'm going to upload.
Okay, sir. And sir, if interviewer asks, where have you used Kafka in your project? How to answer this question, sir?
You can say that in the correspondence module, we used Kafka. In the eligibility module, we use Kafka to resend the notices for the citizens. I will tell the scenario for. Okay.
Sir,
once this UI integration completed, some common interview questions, use cases I will explain.
Sir, hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, in IS admin module, there is a one concept, eligibility. Okay, eligibility. Okay,
sorry?
how to eligibility details in IS module admin. In that module, how we can add the details? There is no option to add the details in eligibility details in admin API.
I did not get, sir. What do you mean by eligibility details in the admin module?
Yes, there is only get fetching the records. No, in admin API backend.
Yeah, in the admin API.
There is one entity, eligibility detail entity. in admin API. Okay.
Yes, sir. That eligibility entity is referring to this eligibility table data.
This is the different model, na? In
Module
that
is different,
module,
but no. Module is different, but database is common, right? One module will be using the other module tables also.
okay, means second module also there is one entity, and first module also there is one entity. Both
Correct.
in both.
Same. Both are talking to the same table.
Okay.
Because modules are different, but database is same. DC module will use AR module table, and ED module will use a DC module table. CO module will use ED tables and DC tables. So modules are different, but database tables will be used in all the modules.
Okay, in iOS module there is some properties and more properties in different modules.
That means when we are developing the admin module, the table is not required. When we are developing other module, the actual table is required. So whatever the entity which is having the more field set, that is the correct entity.
Okay, in iOS module also there is one entity, na sir. In
Yes, sir.
module also tables also will be created.
Correct. Table will be created only one time. So whatever the final table is available, with that table will be created. So you need to segregate those entities.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, in data, in different modules, we use the same table name. In the database side, it will be single instance.
Single instance, correct. The entity is only, I mean, in the module wise, multiple. We are reusing the same entities, but in the backend table will be only one.
Single instance only.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, I'm uploading the notes, Angular notes to the website. So please go through that Angular notes and create the Angular project and play with the components for today. So in the tomorrow, we are going to implement the UI part for that.
Sir, can you implement a logging concept for at least one module?
Yes, sir. Yes. Logging or login?
Logging, sir. Not logging.
Logging.
Yes.
Logging. I think in the admin API, we added the loggers. Committed the code in the GitHub. You can check it once.
No, sir, I don't think there it is.
It is available. You can check it once. It is there.
Okay,
I
sir.
added the logger classes for that.
Okay, sir, let me check.
Yeah, please. Guys, Angular notes uploaded, complete Angular notes I have given there. You can check it. So tomorrow we are going to implement UI for this, one of the module in our IAS application. Thank you. Please practice that before coming to tomorrow's class.